On, Dodger fans? Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast. We are 8 days away from the MLB trade deadline, and we all know if you've been following the Dodgers, they certainly have some needs. So we'll talk about some of the trade targets we've got, some updated rumors, and you can let us know in the comments section who you think the Dodgers need to trade for, and do they need bullpen help? Which bullpen relievers are you guys circling in on your top of your wish list? Because I feel like the Dodgers need some help there. We'll get into that. The Los Angeles Dodgers did end up taking the series against the Minnesota Twins. It did feel like they were on near life support, but they did rally in the bottom of the ninth inning off a potential Dodgers target in Griffin Jax. The Dodgers took care of business. Freddie Freeman walked it off, and now the Los Angeles Dodgers improved to 60-43. They've got a 4.5 game lead over the San Diego Padres. So let's talk about this game. I know Jake Reiner's got some thoughts. He wants to rip some players. He wants to praise some players. I think it's only appropriate to start with the walk-off of the ninth inning. So let's get into that, Jake Reiner.
That was vintage Dodgers baseball this year. Their offense most of the season has been able to come up with these dramatic come-from-behind wins. That is kind of the staple of this team this year, unfortunately and fortunately, right? Because they're winning those types of games a lot, but the fact that they are behind so much during these games is very concerning. The bullpen cannot hold a lead to save its life right now. It is very frustrating, not only to Dodgers pitchers, but also to the offense that has to continue to fight and fight and fight. But today was a great example of the Dodgers just never giving up with 2 outs, building this rally, loading the bases for Freddie Freeman. I mean, I think Esteury Ruiz with a massive walk to draw there was huge. Yeah. There are some players that, were coming up in situations like this all game. Mookie Betts, Miguel Rojas just not coming through. So for Freddie Freeman to come through there was massive, especially given the fact where he's been the last few weeks. He's been very cold, but he's starting to figure it out. He even said that he figured something out in his swing, which is always a great thing. He's always tinkering with it. So the fact that he was able to come through in that moment was massive. And then it's a game of inches, Kevin. Harrison Bader had a beat on that ball. I mean, that is a ball that if you'd ask him, he'd probably say 9 times out of 10, he's going to catch that baseball. I mean, yes, it was a diving catch, but game of inches. That ball barely missed landing in his glove. And because it didn't, 2 runs scored, the Dodgers end up winning. And thank God for that, because of how badly they've been playing. They may not have deserved to win that game, but thank God they won the series.
Well, first off, in terms of Esteury Ruiz, definitely the unsung hero because he didn't violate the pet peeve rule of don't swing when the relief pitcher is looking erratic and rattled out there. He didn't swing once. He just took the balls. They were out of the zone, pretty apparent. He didn't try to be a hero. He just took the free pass and passed the baton over for Freddie Freeman, the exact player you want with the bases loaded. I don't care what kind of slump Freddie Freeman's in. Anytime he's in a clutch situation, I'm still going to believe in him and have that faith that he's going to come through. So even though Freeman has been in a funk, it's not like he's having a bad season by any means. Freddie Freeman is still having a terrific year, and it's great to see him be the hero for the Dodgers today. I believe that's his second walk-off during the regular season. I know he had one very early this year, kind of in a similar fashion, and that was an .870 expected batting average, by the way, from Freeman to walk it off. So that just kind of gives you more framework in terms of Bader was close. Like he was trying to make a very tough play, but that should have been a base hit nonetheless for Freddie Freeman.
Oh, yes. And the way that Freddie battled too in that moment was big. I also want to point out that just going back to Ruiz for a second, the patience, you mentioned it, but the fact that the Twins basically had the Dodgers right where they wanted them. Mookie Betts got a little infield single, and then they walked Shohei Ohtani with first base was occupied. So they're essentially moving the tying run into scoring position in order to get to Ruiz, which was the move. I mean, that was the move because they had pinch ran for Teoscar Hernandez the inning prior, and I felt that was warranted at the time to try and tie the game, on a double, and you want the good speed there. The Ruiz stole a base, So there was that. That was a benefit. But unfortunately, he came up in the order where Teoscar Hernandez would have been. The Twins had the Dodgers right where they wanted them. And Ruiz, who, he hasn't had that many at-bats, but from what I've seen so far, he's had some big swings. I mean, he swings out of his shoes. So for him to be disciplined in that moment was everything for this team. Unsung hero, great at-bat. You want to extend the game for your big guys like Freddie Freeman, and he did his job. Huge job there for him.
I see Carlos Garcia with the super chat. We'll definitely get to that in a little bit, Carlos, so stay tuned. Appreciate the super chat. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. We are presented by TickPick and Fansided. So some of the other good, and then there's plenty of bad to get into. Shohei Ohtani. He's homered in 5 consecutive games now. He is on fire. This is one prolific athlete that even when it seems like he might be in a little bit of a slump, he's going to naturally find his way back into a rhythm, and that appears to be the case. Ohtani has been red hot. I'm thinking back to the first game against the Twins where he gave up the home run to Byron Buxton to lead off the game, and then he fought back and battled back and responded with a 2-run home run in the bottom of the first inning.
That was sick.
Yeah, Ohtani's been an absolute maniac out there. So just good reassurance that the Dodgers have a few hot hitters. It's been kind of the Ohtani and Will Smith show.
They say that baseball is a tough sport to judge sometimes in terms of how much of an impact a player has on any one given team, because unlike in football or in basketball, like you can always give the ball to your best player when the game's on the line, and you can't always do that in baseball. I mean, it's just a matter of chance, like we saw with Esteury Ruiz. I mean, you gonna pluck Bronny James off the bench for the Lakers to hit the game-winning shot and be forced into doing that? No, you're not going to do that. You wouldn't do that in a million years. But in baseball, it's different. So the fact that Ohtani has had this much of an imprint on a single game by himself, you mentioned in that first game where he gives up a home run and then responds with a 2-run home run for himself. I mean, that is carrying a game. I mean, that is how special this player is. Not to mention the fact that, let's see, I pulled it up. He's pitched in 6 games so far and has an ERA of 150. I mean, it's like he's elite at both things, and he's able to win you a game by himself. It reminds me of all those years back when Kershaw won the game by himself, when he was pitching a shutout on opening day and then hit a home run off the Giants, and that ended up being the difference in the game. But this is the potential for that every time out, which is insane.
Yeah. Tyler Glasnow deserves a shout out. He was exceptional today. He went 7 innings. He had 12 strikeouts. He only gave up 1 run, which was a solo home run to Royce Lewis. This is the Tyler Glasnow we've been waiting for. And hopefully this is the Tyler Glasnow we continue to see, because his resume speaks for itself when he's actually on the mound. He certainly fits in that ace mold type when he's actually healthy, but that's always going to be the big knock against Tyler Glasnow. And we've talked about it before. Like, this is the perfect timing. Like, he sat out basically the first half of the season. Now you get Tyler Glasnow for the second half, and you've got a really good arm. If he stays out there, you've got a great arm, a strikeout monster, and he has big league stuff, big swing and miss stuff. And Justin Yamas pointing out, Glasnow is the first starting pitcher for the Dodgers to pitch on 4 days rest this season.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy that they would do that with him, given his injury history. But anyway, the point I was going to make is that you're getting Glasnow back at kind of the right time. This is the second half of the season where, now we're making a push towards the playoffs, and he's just getting, healthy. Snell's getting back. You're getting a lot of these guys back and ramping up for the second half of the season. It's almost like in 2020 when they had the 60-game season. I mean, how kind was that schedule to starting pitchers? That's the one position where a long season really takes its toll, is on the starting pitching. And so if you can have guys fresh second half, that are this dominant and this good heading into October, and they can stay healthy, that's scary. And I think it's a big reason why the Dodgers are like, well, we're not so focused. We don't want to be focused on starting pitching for the trade deadline. We need relievers. That's the need. That is the biggest need. And if you can get an outfield bat, in addition to that, fantastic. But the priority is relief pitching, because starting pitching is coming back. And then you think about Max Muncy's coming back too. He's coming back sooner than expected. He's a huge glue guy in that lineup. So I'm thrilled with how it's shaping up for us. We just need to be playing better baseball.
So from Carlos Garcia, let's get into it. Do you think the Dodgers are going to get one of Johan Duran, Emmanuel Clase, or Mason Miller?
I mean, of those three, I would say that Clase is probably the best bet for us to land. It's the guy we've been connected to pretty much, the whole time. Kevin's brought him up a million times. But I do think we land a big fish. I think Andrew Freeman, as much as he hates to trade for a high leverage reliever at the deadline, Kirby Yates and Tanner Scott have really forced his hand here. And I think the Dodgers have a golden opportunity to win back-to-back titles. I think he's going to be aggressive.
So I have a theory that in yesterday's game, the Twins had a pretty comfortable lead up to that point. I think it was like 10-5, and they bring in Johan Duran, low leverage situation. My theory is that was a showcase for the Dodgers to kind of get him out there. Let's see what this guy looks like against some of your best hitters, and hopefully he pitches well, and that buffs up the trade price. It ultimately kind of backfired because he did give up a 2-run home run to Shohei Ohtani. But I do think of these three, actually, because Miller's in here, I take that back. Miller's the most expensive. So I don't think the Dodgers are going to even be near that territory. I don't even know if they'll pick up the phone and call the Athletics for him. I would say Johan Duran is probably the second most expensive because of how good of a season he's having and the years of control. And that's not to knock Emmanuel Clase, because he's also having a pretty good season. He was amazing last year up until the playoffs, had an ERA below 1, and then also has years of control. But of those three, I think Emmanuel Clase is who the Dodgers want the most, and I think it's the most realistic target of the three. And I'll talk more Clase kind of when we start to focus in on the deadline. But back to gathering my thoughts here, with Duran being a showcase, Griffin Jacks also probably was being showcased, but he failed the audition today. Obviously had no command, gave up walks. The decision to intentionally walk Shohei Ohtani, I did find that a little bit interesting. I know it's Shohei Ohtani, but do you really want to allow an extra run, or do you want to move a runner into scoring position?
I mean, it is a big decision, obviously, because putting a runner in scoring, the tying run in scoring position on the road is a huge risk. But I think, honestly, in that Rocco Baldelli, right? That's the manager of the Twins.
Yes.
I agree with him. If you had a chance to do it over again, I would have done the exact same thing, because here's the thing. The one guy that you can't let beat you, who's beaten you the whole series, is Shohei Ohtani. Yeah. And if you got Esteury Ruiz behind him, now, look, you can make an argument. If you walk Ohtani in front of Teoscar Hernandez, maybe I would, pause there, because you don't want to put the tying run at second with Teoscar at the plate. But Esteury Ruiz, you got to do that every time. Every time.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Backfired, obviously, but I mean, you can't walk Ruiz at the end of the day. Like, that's just unacceptable.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like you intentionally walk Shohei Ohtani. You got to get Ruiz out. You got to at least make him swing the bat, put the ball in play, or give him a shot to hit it.
And while we're on the subject of bad hitters, hot take, I think the only reason James Outman is with the big league club right now, as opposed to them going to another option, is they're trying to showcase him as well for other teams scouting the Dodgers, because obviously half the league is probably scouting our players because they're trying to work out a trade on the flip side if they're sellers. Outman has just been atrocious. I mean, he's hitting 103 now. I don't even know what to make of James Outman. He is a sunken ship.
Yeah, he came up with the bases loaded, I think, in 1 out in a situation today.
And he forced out.
Yeah. And he, I mean, we both kind of texted the same thing to each other. Like, can he do anything at the plate? Like literally anything, sack fly. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's unbelievable how I've never seen this stark of a contrast, or I maybe shouldn't say never, but in a while, I haven't seen this stark of a contrast between somebody's ability to hit AAA pitching and inability to hit major league pitching. I've never seen it. It is like it's the biggest gap I've ever seen.
Yep. He's the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Him and Luke Raley are the two that tore up AAA and couldn't hit a lick with the Dodgers near the end.
But even Luke Raley going on to Seattle, I mean, at least even he figured something out.
He did. No, it's interesting how you leave the Dodgers and all of a sudden you're a competent player. I want to get into this bullpen now because there's just so much to talk about. First off, Tanner Scott avoided the worst of the worst. He is on the injured list, but he came out last night that it's a clean MRI. It's just going to be elbow inflammation. So he should probably miss the bare minimum of 15 days. So at least we avoid that travesty. But obviously it was another bad start for Scott, or another bad outing for Scott. He had walked to runners. He was getting into some trouble. The velocity was down. It was interesting because they ruled it like a 93 mile per hour changeup, but he doesn't throw a changeup. That was clearly an injured elbow throwing a 93 mile per hour fastball. So then he came out of the game. Kirby Yates was a train wreck, but we'll talk Yates in a second. But that's player one, Tanner Scott. Anything to add there?
I think it's a positive that he's on the IL right now because it means that Dave Roberts can't go to him. I mean, he just has, I mean, it's simple as that. Here's the thing. It's people, I've seen some chatter online, you know, maybe on Dodger Talk too, about people upset with Dave Roberts and his pitching moves, and normally I'd be right there with you, but he just has nobody to go to. Literally nobody to go to. And the two guys that they paid the most money for in the offseason to shore up this bullpen have been disasters. And you can't really say that they were big mistakes. You can in hindsight, but at the time, if you were to tell me that both Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates would be equally as terrible after signing them, I would think you're crazy. I mean, you got to think one of those guys is going to be okay, and neither of them have been good. The only thing I can say about Dave Roberts and his pitching decisions is Kirby Yates is still healthy, but he has not deserved a high leverage position. You cannot put him there. Pick anybody else. And I know he doesn't have anybody to choose from, but right now I would take anybody else in that spot, up a run, down a run, tied. I mean, you got to go to somebody else because Kirby Yates, the last 7 games is a 7.20 ERA. That's disgusting. You can't have that out there, especially with this team struggling to win games as it is. Mm-hmm. You got to just go to somebody else, even if it's, Alexis Diaz, who they just used, or, go back to Jack Dreyer or Bonda or anybody else. Kirby Yates cannot be in that situation right now. He's got to pitch in some low leverage situations, get his confidence back. I don't know, but his confidence is shot right now. And he almost blew the game. Thank God for James Outman the 2 days before.
Yeah. I was going to definitely bring that up. Since we're talking Kirby Yates, I'll one up you. If the playoffs were to start tomorrow, you have to leave him off the playoff roster because he has just been that big of a liability. It reminds me of Brian Wilson year 1 versus Brian Wilson year 2 with the Dodgers, where Kirby Yates with the Rangers last season was one of the best relievers in all of Major League Baseball. He was an all-star. Nobody could touch him. His ERA was like in the ones. Then year 2, now here we are with Kirby Yates. You mentioned how bad he's been over the last 7 days. The season in its entirety, he's got a 4.5 ERA, a whip over 1.3. Today, he walked a couple Twins. Those Twins runners ultimately went in to score. You mentioned the long ass fly out that Carlos Correa literally corked that ball into dead center field. It had a 950 expected batting average, but somehow it just died out at the very, very end, and Outman was able to make a little leap and pull it back in. But that was on the verge of being a game-tying home run. Yates has been a total train wreck. This was someone I was super high on and wanted him to be a Dodger. There was no mistake to sign him because everything indicated he was supposed to be a lights-out, high-leverage reliever, and he's been the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, and you can see his demeanor on the mound is shot. His confidence is shot. Every time a ball gets destroyed off of him, he is in shock. You can't figure it out. He has no idea how he's supposed to fix this. And it's like when you see you talk about slumps at the plate, right? And hitters are going to go through that in a long season, especially if they're starting position players. But to have a slump as a reliever is really tough because it means that you are affecting the outcomes of games. You could have a guy like, Tommy Edman go through, or even let's say Mookie Betts, right? Mookie Betts could go through a massive slump he has all season, and the Dodgers are still at the top of the division, right? But Kirby Yates is literally affecting the wins and losses of this team recently. It has been a bad slump all year long. You could make the same argument for Tanner Scott. It is just unacceptable. And it's unfortunate that the rest of this bullpen just isn't healthy. I mean, we were counting on guys like Kopech and Trinan and Gratterall and Phillips, and none of them have been there. None of them have been relied upon. And you just were hoping that with Yates and Tanner Scott, at the very least, those guys would show up. And right now, it's like, who can you trust in that bullpen? Alex Vesia, pretty much. That's it. And Banda occasionally. Like, he has good moments and he has horrific moments. But those are really the only two guys you can really trust.
I am begging the Dodgers right now, please place Ben Casparius on the injured list. So yesterday he pitched. Apparently he came into the game with a bad calf. I don't know why you would even go into the game if your calf's bothering you. If you don't know this about calf injuries, one of the biggest precursors to blowing out your Achilles tendon is having a calf injury. That's what happened to Kevin Durant. That's what happened to Damian Lillard. And then there was a pitcher that it happened to this season too. And I don't know why I'm blanking on who it was, but they had a calf injury and then they were pitching and they blew out their Achilles. I'd have to look it up.
I can't remember him either, but it was a significant pitcher.
I think it was on the Braves, but anyways, I'll look it up in a second. But anyways, the point is going out there with an injured calf it's like playing Russian roulette. And not only that, Ben Casparius has just been god awful ever since they tried to stretch him out into that like hybrid starter reliever type of role. Over his last 7 games, he's gone 16 innings, but he has an 11 ERA, a whip of 2. He's walking a ton of batters too. 12 strikeouts over 16 innings, but 6 walks. I know in that game last night, it felt like a comedy. He just kept throwing balls, and then he loaded the bases, and then he had to come into the game, and then that inning just kind of unraveled a little bit. It was an absolute train wreck. But anyways, Ben Casparius went from being like our hero out of the bullpen to just a total flop. And it's a shame. He flamed out, essentially.
Yeah, I think, some of these relievers that the Dodgers employ over the years have had
Griffin Canning, by the way.
Griffin Canning, yeah. It was someone significant. It was a guy that was having a really good season, miraculously. But I think the point is that the Dodgers ask a lot of their relief pitchers over the years, and it's like they have a style of player that they really like, which is one who is just malleable, just someone that can do so many different things. Position player wise, they love the Kikes and the Tommy Edmans and the Hae-Sung Kims that can play all over the diamond. Similarly with relievers, they love their high leverage guys, but they love the guys that they can bring in the 4th inning and give you 3 innings, or they can put you in high leverage. And Ben Casparius kind of was looking like that was the guy if they had kept him in that role. And then they tried to make him a starter, and then they backed off of that because Shohei Ohtani kind of sped up his process. So it's like then he becomes the piggyback for Ohtani, and then he tries to go back, then he tries to actually be a starter, and it's like too many different things for him. And it's unfortunate too, because I believe in Ben Casparius. And I think that once he kind of figures it out, maybe goes on the IL and gets healthy again, to put him back in that role of like potential long man, that's kind of his role. Like, is the middle relief. That's where you want Ben Casparius.
Yeah, I just don't know why the Dodgers had to break him, because he was essentially carrying the load while the guys like Phillips were out and Trinan and Gratterall and Kopech. And I liked him in that 1 to 2 inning role where he was pitching some high leverage. And then they just tried to make him a starter. And then he was starting to tip his pitches. And then the league figured him out. And now his confidence is shot. Now his season ERA is over 5. At one point, it was like in the mid ones, and it's completely ballooned. So it's been a complete flip of the script for Ben, and not in a good way. And that's not the only reliever that, well, I'm not even pissed at Ben Casparius. That's more kind of empathy. Someone I'm actually pissed at is Edgardo Henriquez. What the hell was that shit show last night? You had the bases loaded, or I think the bases were loaded, and you field a routine ball and you completely butcher it to the outfield. How the hell are you a major league pitcher and you can't even throw the ball to first base?
I agree with you, but I think what's worse for me on that play is after you bobble it, just eat it, because there was no chance, even with a good throw, he was getting that runner out. He was already safe. And so why would you even risk it at that point? I mean, it was one of the worst throws I've ever seen. I mean, there was no chance anybody was catching that ball.
50 Cent could have made a better throw.
I mean, yeah, it basically was that. That was horrific. That game was so frustrating, because after Pages tied it at 3 with the 3-run shot, that's a game you got to just win. You got to just win that game. And it felt like whoever they put out there on the mound, but just could not get the job done, just could not hold anything. And it was a disaster. And once again, it's like Yamamoto, who doesn't get a lot of run support anyway, finally got some, and the bullpen couldn't hold it.
Yeah. And then the other guy I want to rip, I thought he had some promise, but he has just been too wild. Will Klein has just not been good either. He is walking way too many hitters. I mean, he's basically averaging a walk an inning. I don't think he needs to be DFA'd by any means, but he needs some control issues down in AAA until he gets that shit figured out, because his whip is way too high. It's 1.8. The ERA, I'm surprised it's only 3.72, but his command is just all over the place. But he throws hard. But does it really do you a service if you throw 100 miles per hour, but you're walking all these hitters?
I missed who you were talking about, but are you referring to your cousin, Will Klein?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I like his stuff. He's got a power arm, and the Dodgers would love for him to be, more of a high leverage guy, because they don't really have anybody else at the moment that can do that. And he has shown some promise, but yeah, just the way he came in and just started walking guys left and right. You can't do that. You just can't do that.
And then let's say a prayer for Lou Trevino. He started off really well with the Dodgers. I think that's why we were talking him up. I saw No Name poking fun at me, but like at first Lou Trevino was doing really good, and then the tires fell off, and he just became an adventure every time out there. So it's time for the Dodgers to move on and DFA Lou Trevino. I'm not going to miss him. They've got Alexis Diaz up there now to try to make a name for himself. He was the one that helped try to clean up that Casparius mess, and I think he did the best he could, all things considered.
Yeah, the Dodgers bullpen has a many issues, and one of them is inherited runners scoring at the moment. So that was, but I want to see what Diaz can do. I think the Dodgers, if they can hit on one of these guys that they've collected off the scrap heap, I think that'll make their job a lot easier at the trade deadline for not being so desperate. But right now they're operating from a desperation standpoint.
Carlos Garcia asking with the super chat, what does Roki Sasaki's role look like when he returns? We got an update from Roberts earlier this afternoon that he is starting to throw some bullpen sessions and targeting some type of August return.
Here's my take on him. I think the lights are too bright for him right now. I just felt that when he first started pitching, the command wasn't there. He looked very rattled. And I think the Dodgers are they're going to have him out there when he comes back, but I think they're going to slow play him, and they're not necessarily going to rely on him for anything big this year, unless it comes down to the only option available if the starting rotation gets blown up again, which could very well happen. But I just feel like with Roki Sasaki, they're not going to rely too heavily on him. What do you think?
I don't think they should rely too heavily on him either as a starting pitcher. They don't need him right now to start games, especially in the postseason. The four is locked in. If they're all healthy, it's Yamamoto, Ohtani, Glasnow, and Snell in some type of order. That's just the big four. I don't think there's any wiggle room to squeeze someone else in there. It's not going to be Kershaw over Glasnow. It's not going to be Dustin May over Tyler Glasnow or Blake Snell. Like, those are the four. Ohtani is going to start games for the Dodgers in October. There's no doubt in my mind. Now, in terms of the conversation with Roki Sasaki, there's no way to sugarcoat it. His first season with the Dodgers has been a big disappointment. I mean, all stats indicate he's not been good. I mean, he has a FIP over 6. He has an ERA of 4.72. He's only thrown 34 innings for the Dodgers. This was the most coveted Japanese pitching prize of all time. And the lights were bright, like you said, and he hasn't amounted to it. And I don't want to hear the excuses that he's an unfinished product. He's a rookie. No, when you give a guy a press conference, there are high expectations that you're going to perform in year one. He didn't have to go out there and be an all-star, but he needed to go out there and be better than what we've gotten so far. And
I agree.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I'm disappointed too. I expected – well, I didn't expect him to get injured, but I expected him to have some sort of growing pains and then to figure it out and settle in and trust his stuff. I think what has happened here is he focused maybe too much on trying to change what made him successful. I mean, one of the things that he was asking teams when he was interviewing was, how do I add velocity to my fastball? And by all accounts, it looked like the Dodgers did the opposite of that. It made his fastball slower, which I don't know if that was the plan, but maybe it had something to do with the injury. I don't know. But I think with a lot of things, like, some players respond to those tweaks well, some players don't. I mean, Roki Sasaki's been doing it his way since he was, learned how to pitch and all of that. And coming over here to the States, the Dodgers have their own way of doing things, and maybe that's good for him. It certainly worked out for Hae-Sung Kim. I mean, the Dodgers did a lot of tinkering with him. And they changed, something in his swing that's unlocked something else. He's playing center field for like the first time ever, learning that position, and he's maintaining success. It works for some players. It doesn't work for others. And I just think that that's kind of what we're seeing here. But I'm not, obviously, and I don't think you are either, ready to write him off just yet. I think I want to see more. I want to see him out there. But the bottom line is this: like you said, they don't really need him. And I don't think the Dodgers are going to push him. But right now, to get to the finish line, they need all the starting pitching they can get.
I absolutely still believe in him, and I think he's going to be a sensation once he gets it figured out. But I think if there's any hope to salvage this season, put him in the bullpen. He has the stuff. He throws 100 miles per hour when he can. He has one of the best splitters in the game. He just hasn't really had good command of it. Maybe going multiple innings has just been too much pressure for him. So make him a one-inning guy. Give him that Buehler role. If they need him to pitch in the 9th inning and close it out, maybe Roki Sasaki can have that narrative. Or give him that Urias role in 2020 where they're using this guy in all types of varieties in the bullpen. I think that's the best course of action right now with Roki Sasaki, because this team needs bullpen help, and you've got a guy with the stuff. He just needs to put it together. And I think starting is just honestly what's pressuring him right now. I don't think it's a talent thing. I think it's honestly starting games.
I agree. I think that they're going to try everything with everybody because, the Dodgers, yes, do they need a reliever badly? But to be quite honest with you, they need several relievers. And, can we really trust that all the guys that are injured now are going to are going to come back and be healthy and ready? I don't know. Which brings me to a question. I mean, I know you don't love Dustin May, and he's kind of had his ups and downs this year as a starting pitcher. He's definitely provided length, and he's one of only 2 starting pitchers on this staff to make every single start. And recently he came out of the bullpen and relieved Shohei Ohtani and did a really good job. Yeah. So my question is, we're talking trade deadline. His name's been brought up a bunch. Do you feel like the Dodgers are looking at Dustin May and thinking, well, we could trade him? I don't know what that would do. I'm not sure what contending team out there would want a starting pitcher who's a free agent and willing to give us their high-end relievers as a result. I don't know. No, so they may be looking at Dustin May as a relief option for this team into the postseason. What do you think?
The Dodgers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my stance has changed after last night. With Ben Casparius being a complete wild card right now, they might need Dustin May. And I mean, obviously we saw the best with Casparius, and we hope he gets back to that point, but it's unrealistic to expect him to pitch it that good given what we've seen in the last month or so. So there's a couple of things that need to happen. One, they need to figure out what's the injury status really with Ben Casparius. Does he actually need to go on the IL? Because that certainly puts things into more perspective. But 2, I mean, you could also just demote Ben Casparius down to AAA and see if he figures it out there. And now you make Dustin May essentially the new Ben Casparius, because unlike Ben Casparius, Dustin May has had a track record of being a multi-inning guy and doing it successfully for multiple seasons at the big league level. It's never really been the talent for Dustin May up until really maybe this season. It was the injuries.
Yeah, the injuries, and also just his demeanor on the mound and command, honestly, because the stuff is just wicked, but it's being able to command that stuff that has been so hard for him. And I agree. I honestly think at this point you look at the state of this bullpen, and I don't trust it. I don't trust anybody coming out of those gates right now, with maybe, with the exception of Vesia, maybe Dreyer.
It might be the worst Dodgers bullpen in the Freeman regime.
Could be. I mean, we'd have to go back and really look at some of because I remember some really bad ones with like Pedro Baez. So you'd have to go back and see. But yeah, it's tough down there. So I don't necessarily think Dustin May is a trade piece as he is an asset to this bullpen, because I don't know if I get rid of that.
Yeah, it's just annoying because the Dodgers.
And especially because he's going to be a free agent. Might as well. What's the harm?
Yeah. On paper, this was supposed to be the most talented Dodgers bullpen we've ever assembled, and it's just been a complete train wreck. It's been an utter disappointment. And I was just going to pull up the stats right now, kind of how the pitching has looked as a whole. So in terms of team ERA, Dodgers ERA is blah, blah, blah. Near the bottom, we're 23rd right now. We've got a 4.28 team ERA. Marlins, Angels, Orioles, Nationals, Athletics, Rockies are all behind us. In terms of the bullpen ERA, I know that's probably even worse. Bear with me. We are now 24th. We've got a 4.43 bullpen ERA. So it's been really bad. I know someone asked about walks given up. I don't think the Dodgers have given up the most walks. No, they have not. They are 26th though. So
I mean, what saved this team this year has been the offense. I mean,
yeah,
plain and simple. I mean, they've had some decent starting pitching here and there, but even the starting pitching has been terrible at times.
Let's get into some trade deadline. We'll also get to some questions. Make sure to hit that like button while you're here. Drop some questions for us. If you've got some deadline questions, Dodgers questions, or players you want us to focus on for a minute or so, it's out there. It's like the sky is blue obvious. The Dodgers are looking for a reliever. Passan has said it. Nightingale said it. Sean Heyman has said it. Fabian Ardaya said it. The Dodgers are now focusing on bullpen help. And I've moved into that mindset as well. That is now the top focus for the Dodgers. They do need to get a bat, and we'll talk about that too. But there's just so many names that they've already checked in on. Emmanuel Clase, Johan Duran, Felix Bautista, David Bednar, Ryan Helsley. Jeff Passan also wrote today that Cade Smith, another Guardians reliever, is someone that he feels like is the best fit for the Dodgers. Let me ask you this, Jake. If you could pick one reliever, I don't even care about the price. Who do you want the Dodgers to go after?
I think Mason Miller.
Okay.
I like how young he is, and they have years of control or whatever. I think he would be electric. The thing about Clase, as much as I like him, there's been some combustible moments with him. So I would say realistically, I like Clase the best. If we're talking about just pedigree, and I think he's just he's probably the best reliever available out there. But I think it would be either So I guess I'm revising it to Clase or Miller.
I think the Dodgers are going to get it done. I think they are going to pull off this Emmanuel Clase trade. I think they're going to shock the world. They are going to have to overpay a little bit, but I do think Emmanuel Clase will be wearing a Dodgers uniform after this trade deadline is concluded. I just think he's the reliever that makes the most sense. We just have not had a steady closer since Kenley Jansen moved on. And I know it got a little rocky there with Kenley Jansen near the end, but for so many years, that was our solidified guy in the ninth inning. And then after Jansen left, they tried Kimbrel. That was a disaster. Then they kind of were shifting gears. They had Trinan close a little bit, Phillips close here and there. It was a closer by committee. And frankly, I just feel like closer by committees, they don't necessarily work. And then you find yourself into weird situations in the postseason. And Tanner Scott was supposed to be that guy this year, but he's hurt and he's given up 7 blown saves and 8 home runs. Tanner Scott should not be closing games for the Dodgers for the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, he can't. Yeah, I'm with you.
So yeah, I think that's really it. I think Emmanuel Clase is the best target, but to kind of give people more content here, like Johan Duran, I would like him. Griffin Jacks, I don't think I'm interested anymore after today. David Bednar, I don't really trust him either. I know he's having a bounce back season for the Pirates, but if we dive into his last couple years, he was not very good. I think that's a flash in the pan right there.
We're not making a trade with the Pirates. We never do. When's the last time we made a trade with the Pirates?
Probably. They don't. O'Neal Cruz for Tony Watson.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that was ages ago. They don't trade with us, and because they just hike up that price so much, and they hold these players hostage.
Ryan Helsley is another name that the Dodgers have been linked to. My hesitation with Helsley is that he gives up a lot of hits and walks. I mean, he has a WHIP of 1.4. So do I really want a closer that allows a lot of base runners? I don't know if that really instills confidence in me. He's a rental, but I don't know if I'm on that train. And then Felix Bautista, I just don't think – I feel like the Dodgers and Orioles never trade either, so I don't see that one lining up.
Yeah.
Position players. So the new, but not new, but the it's been brought up again that the Dodgers are one of 8 teams that have checked in and have talked to the White Sox with Luis Robert. So let's put this to bed once and for all. Where do you stand with Luis Robert Jr.?
I've never liked him. The Dodgers are linked to Luis Robert every year. I've never once liked it for many reasons. One of them being his health. This year being he sucks. Like, he's not been good. And he's a decent center fielder. And maybe this is my like Tommy Edman, Michael Kopech moment where I trash the shit out of him and don't want him on the team. But as soon as they trade for him, he becomes like the one of the reasons we win the World Series, which I'll take. I don't care if I'm wrong about, doubting a Dodgers player that ends up coming through. Like, ultimately, that's what I want. But nothing has indicated to me, just like with Michael Kopech specifically, nothing has indicated to me that he's someone that would help us. What do you think?
So first off, Luis Robert Jr. has been hot. Over his last 7 games, he's hitting .435 on base of .500. But even with that little tiny sample size, his season as a whole, I just don't see how he makes the Dodgers better. I mean, he's hitting .208, has a .293 on base percentage, .638 OPS, just 10 home runs. I like the 25 stolen bases. That's the one plus, is he does have the speed. But, I mean, if you're that bad for the Chicago White Sox, what makes me think you're going to come over here for the Dodgers and all of a sudden tear the cover off the ball and be a major contributor in high pressure every single day? And it's not like he's just been bad this season. He was bad last season too. He was awful. He was untradeable. And the year before that, he hit 38 home runs, but 857 OPS. If the White Sox are asking for top prospects like Josue DePaula or Zaire Hope, like, I'm out, because I feel like those guys are going to ultimately be better than Luis Robert Jr. I just don't see the impact that he'll have for the Dodgers. Like, honestly, Michael Conforto is not that much worse than Luis Robert Jr., and I'm very low on Michael Conforto.
I just don't think that, like, I don't know how much you'd have to give up to get Luis Robert at this point. I would hope not a lot, because he's not been that great. But at the same time, it's like, if you're going to get a bat, like if you want to go get a bat and give up something to get a bat that you want, get a good bat, get Stephen Kwan, which I think that might be a stretch at this point, because you got to think that if they're going to go after Kwan, they're going to want a reliever too. And so what's that price going to be? That's going to be a steep one. So if they can get him for something that's like not that much, then maybe I'm interested, but it seems like a lot of risk for maybe not that much upside. I don't know. What is his defense like? Is it worth it to throw that into center field?
He is a good defender.
Okay. Well, there's that. I mean, that's a piece I want to get into, is this Dodgers defense, which has been atrocious.
I know we haven't even covered that. And that's been one of the other culprits with all the errors. Edman made some errors. Obviously, Teoscar Hernandez in that Brewers series, there was a play he needed to make, and it resulted in the Brewers ultimately winning by a run. And if Teoscar had made that play, the Dodgers probably win that game. The defense has been very frustrating.
I'm worried because I had a scary thought, that this could be the 2024 Yankees, this 2025 Dodgers team, where they continue to roll out this idiotic defensive plan that has made no sense at any point before or during the season, where you have a 6-time Gold Glover out of position at shortstop, and you have quite literally the worst fielding right fielder in right field. It's never once made sense to me. And so by putting these guys out of position and going towards the playoffs, I can only think about how Yankees fans thought about their team going into the playoffs, because they weren't good defensively during the regular season either. The signs were there, and then they blew up on the worst stage possible in a game they had to win. They were up 5-0, and their defense blew it. That scares me. I've never been scared like that about a Dodgers team. And Vassay was talking about it on Dodger Talk, because one of the callers brought it up, but he was saying that, the Dodgers could just put Mookie Betts in right field just like they did last season for last year's playoffs, and it'll be fine. And I'm like, why aren't they doing that now? If that happens again, I'm going to be apoplectic, because it is what I've always wanted. But why are we screwing around with this now if that's what you're ultimately going to do? I don't understand it. It's made no sense at any point. And to Mookie Betts' credit, he's played a great shortstop, so you can't really knock him for that. But look at his offense. It's been awful. He's been a shell of himself. Whether you move him to the leadoff spot, the number 2 spot, it doesn't matter. He's been bad. And we need him. If they're going to put him 1 or 2 or 3 in the order, we need him to be better. And so why are we playing him out of position and playing Teoscar Hernandez out of position? It's a recipe for disaster. So I hope they fix it, and I hope they fix it soon. But if they choose to go into the playoffs by moving Mookie Betts to right field, I'm going to say, what the fuck was the point of this?
Um, yeah, with Mookie Betts. So yeah, let me tie it all together. So obviously the shortstop has not been worth it with Mookie Betts because you mentioned the bat has just completely faded, and he's hitting 238 now with a 309 on base percentage, 679 OPS, and they 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 acknowledge his struggles because on the first game he played after the All-Star break, and then the next day they benched him for Miguel Rojas. They flat out benched Mookie Betts because of his struggles, and they wanted to give him a mental reset. And then what do? The next day, they reward him by moving him up in the lineup. And we've been talking about Mookie Betts needs to move down in the lineup. And somehow, according to Dave Roberts' logic, by moving him to the leadoff spot, that's going to help him see the ball better, which frankly, I am just not seeing that logic pan out at all. Now, it kind of worked out today ultimately because in the ninth inning, Mookie Betts did get the base hit in the ninth inning, and that set up the rally for Freddie Freeman. But he was 0 for 4 up until that point. And overall, with him batting in the leadoff spot, it's not like his stats have gotten better. He's still hitting below 200 so far since being moved up to the leadoff spot. So I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. Because yes, historically Mookie Betts has hit better in the leadoff spot, but he's not been good this year. So it's not a matter of that. The Dodgers won the World Series last year and Ohtani was leading off and Mookie was hitting second. So that kind of debunked that whole thing, because if you remember in 2020 when they tried to lead Max Muncy off and we were all like, what the hell is this big brain shit? Why would you have Max Muncy lead off? He is slow as molasses. And then you got Mookie Betts right behind him, who was a little bit faster then. Well, now Mookie's slow as molasses. So he's not getting on base and stealing bases. And he doesn't have the power anymore. I know I've talked about this before, and unfortunately, he's kind of cooled off a little bit. So I don't really have the stats to back this up yet, but why not? If we're just trying shit, because the Dodgers are doing things that don't really have a rhyme or reason, like I outlined with Betts at shortstop and Teo and right. Why don't we try Kim lead off? Just lead him off. I mean, if we're just trying shit, why not do that? At least at the very least, Kim is having a better season than Mookie Betts. Kim is able to, get on base occasionally and steal bases. And then you've got guys on base ahead of Ohtani. I mean, it was so beautiful the other night when Mookie was able to actually get on for Ohtani and he hit that 2-run shot the game he was pitching against the first game against the Twins. And you have visions of that, of like, what's better than a 1-0 start or a solo shot is a 2-run shot. I mean, it just makes so much sense. Why not just try it? And I would move Mookie Betts down to like 5th or 6th. Just take some pressure off the guy. No need to bench him, but leading him off, I don't know if that's going to correct anything.
Sounds like there's some flirtation with maybe moving Max Muncy to the leadoff spot when he returns off the injured list.
No. I hate that. We've already tried that. And guess where Max Muncy's good? In the middle of this order. That's where he's good.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. They just need to work on these little tweaks, because all offseason they bagged on the Yankees for going into that series like they were prone and susceptible to making basic fundamental mistakes. And now we've become that team. I mean, Andy Pages has made countless base running errors, occasional defensive blunders. Obviously, Teoscar, we talked about him being a train wreck in the outfield. Edgardo Henriquez making that disgusting throw to first base that resulted in 3 runs. They got to clean it up.
Ruiz has been an adventure in the outfield. His arm is worse than Juan Pierre's, honestly, which that's a take, because Juan Pierre had a terrible arm. And Ruiz, I don't even know. He's like throwing soap bubbles from the outfield. I don't know what's going on there. It's just been sloppy. The lack of execution. I really, and we haven't talked about it yet, but I really enjoyed watching Kershaw get angry the other day because that pissed me off too. Kershaw was pitching well, and the Dodgers had a 3-0 lead. And this defense just screwed him from every facet, especially Andy Pages. Like, bro, you got to make that catch. It looked a little too nonchalant to me, the way he tracked that ball in the outfield. That was bad. And it allowed, and it was the Brewers, right? It allowed the Brewers to get back in that game and then ultimately win it.
No, that's good. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that, but then time went by, so I forgot about that. But yeah, good to see Kershaw fired up. That's the second start in a row where he's ripped one. First, it was James Outman for kind of being a little too relaxed in that game, and then he was just furious post-game because of the mistakes you just mentioned. And Kershaw's been pitching well, but he doesn't have the team behind him right now to back him up. The run support's been asked and the defense has been asked. So I definitely understand why Kershaw is frustrated. I don't know what they need to do right now to get their shit together. They've just been playing very sloppy baseball. I think the day off tomorrow will certainly do them a service. And then they go to Boston. It sounds like Mookie Betts isn't going to be playing in game 1 of that series due to personal reasons. But obviously you hope to see Mookie Betts get up for a return to Fenway Park.
Yeah, what do you think that's about? The person. I mean, I don't want to speculate, but is this more? I mean, it could actually. We shouldn't do that because we don't know. We don't know, but it is interesting timing for personal reasons for him to step away for personal reasons.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the last call for questions, so make sure to get those questions get those questions in for us in the chat. Hit that like button if you haven't yet. We'll just knock some of these out real quick. No Name, fan of the show, fan of No Name, In and Out, or The Habit.
It's definitely In and Out.
If we're talking strictly the burgers and shakes and not the fries, but the other two, In and Out.
No, the In and Out fries are they've slacked on those forever. They've never been that great. So yeah, it's In and Out for me. Here, I have a question for you, Kevin. Okay. How are you enjoying the pinch hit at bats that Miguel Rojas is getting to replace Ha-Seong Kim? Do you like those?
The problem is when we doubt Miguel Rojas lately, he's been coming through. Ha-Seong Kim is our clutchest hitter randomly with runners in scoring position, but he is in a little bit of a funk. I mean, he's hitting under 200 his last 15 games, but I think we're at the point now in the season where just give Kim these opportunities. See what you've got.
That's my thing. Like let him hit. Let him. I mean, he in the game they lost last night. It's like the Dodgers were down by 3. He gets a clutch 2-out, 2-run single, and then steals second. I mean, come on. And here's the thing, too. It's like the difference between Rojas and Kim. It's like Rojas has to get a hit in order to be effective. Kim doesn't necessarily have to do that because he's fast. And if there's a bases loaded situation, let's say, with nobody out, I'd rather have Kim up there. He's going to beat out. He's not going to get doubled up. He's going to beat it out if he hits it on the ground. If Rojas hits it on the ground, there's no shot. You're out. You're out of that inning. So just based on that, I don't understand why we're hitting for him. He needs that experience. We got to stop with the platoon there.
Yeah. This might be our last question that's worth answering. Is Andy Pages better than Yasiel Puig?
I don't know. No, I don't think it's fair to say at this point that he is. I mean, this is his second season basically, and last year it was limited playing time, so this is his first season as a full-time starter. He's been great, but I don't think it's ready to say that he's better than Puig at this point because Puig's had a pretty good postseason record as well.
Yeah, I don't think we're there yet to know if Andy Pages is better than Yasiel Puig. I mean, Yasiel Puig in his prime was an all-star and was doing all types of crazy things in the clutch. So I think the debate is too premature, but we'll see how it plays out in a couple more years. I think the last thing we got to talk about real quick is just giving a shout out to Will Smith. I mean, he's got a very comfortable lead right now for that National League batting crown. 323. The next closest hitter is a tie between Kyle Stowers of the Marlins at 295 and our own Freddie Freeman. If Will Smith were to win the batting title and being the first catcher in the National League to do it since Buster Posey, where do you think he'd finish in MVP consideration?
I mean, he's got to at least be either top 5, right, or top 3. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that he's winning it, but the second half is a big deal for Will Smith. The fact that the Dodgers have been able to keep him fresh this season has been huge. He hasn't played more than 3 games in a row, more than 5 or 6 times. And he was doing that all the time when Austin Barnes was behind the plate. Now, I'd like to see a little bit more from Dalton Rushing. I kind of feel like he, is not really showing up the way that I thought he would. I mean, a little bit more, but yeah, I kind of give him a break because he doesn't really play all that often. And, it's a tough role for a guy who, his whole life was a starting catcher or, was the number 3 hitter in every lineup and played every day. So I get it. But the fact that they're able to have Dalton in there as much as he is and keep Will Smith fresh, that's going to be huge for the second half. We'll see how it ends up. But if he keeps going at this rate, there's no doubt he's going to be top 5, top 3 MVP, right?
No, he definitely should be in the top 5 without a doubt. I mean, it's basically Ohtani in a tier of his own, and then Pete Crow Armstrong is probably second right now. He's been having a good season with the Cubs. And then I'd really have to dive into it with Will Smith and whoever else could be in there. Aaron Eddick, do the Dodgers go after another backup catcher? I don't think they need that right now. If anything, they need to find a home for Hunter Fiducia.
Yeah.
All right, Jake Reiner, any final thoughts or anything else you want to cover real quick?
Well, I will actually say that I think about it. I mean, Dalton Rushing could be involved in one of these deals that they do. He is a prized possession. And so I think at that point I would just go to Fiducia. I mean, what's the harm? He's a good catcher. He's a good hitter. So I think that's probably what they'll do if they don't go out and do something stupid and re-sign Barnes.
I would hate to trade Dalton Rushing for just a reliever because last year, exactly a year ago, they wouldn't trade him for Garrett Crochet. So here we are a year later, and now you wouldn't trade him for Crochet, but now you're going to trade him for a reliever. On the flip side, maybe you want to get that trade in before it's way too late, and you end up like Diego Cartaya, who's currently unemployed.
I agree. It's a tough gamble to decide whether or not you're going to trade an asset like that, because it could end up like a Diego Cartaya. You hold on to him too long and it becomes a bust, or it's like in the case of Michael Busch, there was no spot for him. Then they trade him and he becomes kind of what you expected him to become for you. So you never know. And then it could, a guy you could trade away, it could become Yordan Alvarez. So it's such a gamble with these guys to determine whether or not they're going to turn out or pan out. So we'll see.
So I saw F1 over the weekend. Highly recommend F1 for anyone. It's a fantastic film that you need to see in theaters.
I need to see it.
Brad Pitt knocks it out of the park, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. That was what led up to this point that I want to make. It's my little rant. Parking garages need to stop with the prices. I get it if it's like long-term parking or you're going to a big event. You can have the parking garages, but why do we have parking garages that give you a ticket and charge you to go shopping? It's the most backwards logic I can think of right now, because malls are dying, retail spaces are dying, and it's just a waste of paper. Then you have to keep track of that paper. And one of the most stressful things right now is keeping track of that little ticket piece of paper when I'm out doing my thing. Like, I might open my wallet a few times to make some purchases. And it's happened one time a few years ago where I lost the ticket and then they charged me $30 instead of like $5 because I lost the ticket. It's the biggest not big. It's a big scam out there, and it makes me want to go to less places. Even when I went to the AMC, the parking garage charged me $30 up front because it was in the Universal Studios lot. And then I go to validate it with the ticket booth person, and then they give me cash back for like $25. It's like, what is this pointless shit right now? And who wants to go to City Walk if you have to pay $30 to go there?
No, it's ridiculous. I mean, everything costs too much. And I think to the point, because growing up, like I went to, Century City as a kid and went to the theater there. And I still go to Century City to see movies. I think it's a great place to watch a movie. The thing that I have an issue with, not only the pricing, but like how confusing is that parking structure? I get lost in it all the time. And to be quite honest, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I need to park that is closest to the theater. So you end up parking, and by the way, there's never any spot available. So you're driving around for hours. You finally find a spot, and now you've got to take a picture of the spot. You walk, and you've got to take stock of all the landmarks around you so that you remember where to go back to after you're done. It's insane. So the whole system is fucked.
That's all I got. Anything else we missed?
No, I'm sure there is something. I'm sure there is something that I missed. This team just needs to play better. They need to execute better, and the defense just needs to be better. They just need to play better. That's all there is to it. I know there's injuries, but these are Major League Baseball players. They cannot be making the mistakes that they're making.
Right on. Appreciate everyone tuning in to the Wednesday, July 23rd episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast. We might have an episode or two before the trade deadline. Maybe we'll go live on that hour or two leading up to the deadline as we keep you in the loop for all Dodgers trade rumors. Make sure to follow our social media. We're constantly posting the latest Dodgers rumors. So everyone have a great rest of your week. We're off. The Dodgers are off tomorrow, and then they begin that series against the Boston Red Sox.